OIC, otherwise known as the Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson.
And I'm the co-host, Noah Hansen. The Omnipresent Information Connection Podcast is all about your world and your unique walk on this path called life. We present fascinating, life-changing information from around the world that has been validated. We also authenticate the information by providing you with links to where you can find out more about what we are talking about on our show. This podcast includes historically accurate, genuine facts that have helped shape our daily lives into what they are today. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Omnipresent Information Connection. My name is Noah Hansen. I'm here with Kevin Peterson. We are your hosts of the OIC Podcast. And I'm getting all emotional, Kevin. I'm getting all emotional because we've been doing this podcast for so long, and finally we're bringing it. We're bringing the Emotional Intelligence Podcast, and this is something that you are absolutely a master in, and I know this because you've been a life coach in my life, and you've taught me so much emotional intelligence. It's been wonderful. Now, we've got a lot of truth bombs to tell you, so bombs away. Let's get started.
All right. Well, the very first thing is emotional intelligence, the dictionary definition, and it's the capacity to be aware of or to control and express one's emotions and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathically, right?
All right, so judiciously.
Yes.
What's that mean?
Judiciously is to be able to handle things by judging oneself.
Having proper judgment of your own emotions.
Correct.
All right.
Emotional intelligence is the key to both personal and professional success. And for those of you that are entrepreneurs, you know the value of it because it is the number one thing that helps you to be able to connect with and to be able to relate with those people of like-minded people.
Yes, we actually have a post on our website, inaneway.com, where we review the book, The Go-Giver.
Yes.
And The Go-Giver talks all about how having an emotional connection to your clientele and an emotional connection with yourself, control, judicially, is powerful as far as being a success as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So make sure you watch that video and also to be able to pick up the book if you can find it. And it's at Barnes & Noble and other bookstores.
Oh, yeah. It's all over.
Nationwide. So when getting into emotional intelligence, the very first thing that you need to do is to be able to be raw, real, and honest with yourself when handling this particular topic, because there's a lot of things that act like emotions, feel like emotions, but they're reactionatory versus
well thought out,
right? And so when dealing with emotional intelligence, there are 5 characteristic traits of emotional intelligence.
All right.
The first one is self-awareness. Who am I? Why am I doing what I'm doing? When should I be doing something, right? And then how should I be doing it, right? Second one is self-regulation. You have to be able to regulate not only time, but patience as well when dealing with emotional intelligence. You've got to be able to regulate how much of too much comes in versus going out. 3, motivation. Natural versus unforced, right? Natural is something that you don't even have to think about. It just naturally happens. The unforced and or forced, depending on how you want to view it, is more of a trained, programmed session. It's more of a study session on being able to get right versus just naturally being right.
Sure. So when it's unforced, that's where you have mastered what you know you were about to do. And so you can do it, but you're thinking about it before you do it still.
Absolutely. That's part of mastering the force.
And you have to kind of force things if you haven't mastered it yet, so that you can get to a point where it's a more automatic action being taken.
The next one, number 4, is empathy.
That's a big one.
Huge, right?
Oh yeah.
For those people that don't know what empathy is, Noah, can you explain it?
Empathy, being empathetic, is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's being able to feel their own emotions as your emotions, and then sort of get some insight into how this person is feeling.
Right. And why is that important?
Well, it's important because when you don't know what another person's going through, then you may just be reacting to them or acting towards them in a way that, it's very selfish. You can't be selfless unless you're having empathy.
So what you're saying is action versus reaction.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's all down to brass tacks.
Yep. Okay. And then number 5 is social skills. Being able to talk to people, being in an environment to where you feel comfortable around other people, to where you actually are bringing your gift with you to the table anytime that you sit down with a group of people, right? Is to be able to be skillful and sociable all at the same time. Knowledgeable, but not overpowering, right?
Yes, I hear that.
So to be able to have the social skills is to be able to take other people's considerations in mind before you unleash your own mind, right?
Yes, that has a lot to do with empathy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So having social skills also is knowing how your actions are going to affect other people. Knowing how, you can interact with people in a way that is authentic so that they will get the message that you're trying to portray. Being able to portray a message in the way that it's going to be received how you want it to be received.
Absolutely. So emotional intelligence, if you were to be able to summarize it, is what, Noah?
Well, emotional intelligence is a whole lot of things, but it's very simply being intelligent of one's own emotions and other people's emotions, and then being able to actually muster up emotional reactions in yourself and in other people to get the right results.
Mm-hmm. But more importantly, over all of it is being able to have almost a sixth sense when it comes to emotionally either attaching or detaching yourself from a problem or a situation, good or bad, right?
Yes.
Without studying, without researching, without applying, so envision this. You having an umbilical cord attached to everyone you come in contact with. That umbilical cord literally stretches or it literally becomes loosened when you communicate with people. They either want to be able to move away from you or they want to be able to engage and be closer to you.
Right, cause it's tension or attraction.
Mm-hmm. And that's an energy field that is emotional intelligence, to where someone comes into a conversation or wants to join a conversation because of your emotionally intelligent, well-informed process of communicating, right?
Yeah, and on another podcast, and we'll put this in the description below so you can listen to it for yourself, we talked about how our emotional state of being, our coherence between our heart and our brain, can actually influence other people's connections, other people's emotions. And this is this is based on research done by the Heart Math Institute, and it's very, very profound. So I recommend you listen to that podcast as soon as you're done with this one, or whenever you have the time. But it's a powerful study that was done.
So Noah, tell me, in your own experience, how emotional intelligence has helped you.
Well, it's helped me to be able to overcome certain situations in my life, whether it's financial or a situation with a family member, where there's been times in my life where my emotional reactions were all completely selfish, right? I was getting angry, I was getting frustrated, and I didn't care how anyone else felt. I have realized with emotional intelligence that if I want to get the result I'm looking for, I need to be able to have control over my own emotions, have a good hold on what I'm allowing to be expressed through me. And that in turn has enabled me to be able to affect others in the way that they deserve to be affected, be able to even know that they deserve it, even think about that, have that in mind, and be able to also show the value of who I really am to other people. Be able to not have to strive for someone to see me as a certain type of person, but just be that type of person. And emotional intelligence has a lot to do with that, because I can't be who I really authentically am unless I am allowing myself to control my emotions rather than being controlled and thrown all over the place with my emotions.
So how has that helped you in helping others?
Well, in helping others, it's allowed me to do my job right. When I'm at any workplace, that makes you a better worker, having emotional intelligence, because you don't get all stressed out and not able to deal with a situation because you're just worried about, the stress. It's allowed me to take control over my own self, like I said, and then do what needs to be done. So in that, it's helped others because now I am a better worker. Now I am a better family member. Now I am a better person in general, a more authentic person.
So, Noah, walk someone through your mind on what you go through, the processes that you take to immediately recognize what's emotionally affecting you and what you do about it, both positively and negatively.
Well, first and foremost, the biggest part of this in my own processes is being able to have a good connection with God. When I have a good connection with God, I can immediately think about what He's thinking about the situation instead of just being, in my own ball of selfishness. And so having someone else in the situation, who is Jesus Christ in this situation, is very important, because no longer am I focused on just myself. Now there's a whole other element to the situation, and I'm thinking not just about my thoughts, I'm thinking about what He's thinking, what He's said about it in the past. So bringing my mind in reflection back to what He's said is very important. Now, another process that I take to be able to get control, I guess, is to be able to take a breath, take a step back, and have that moment to process what's going on so that I don't have an instant reaction that may be wrong.
And why is that important?
Well, when we are just reacting to something without any thought behind it, then that's where getting angry is a very easy one. Anger usually comes up without any thought behind it. In other situations, you can think about something that makes you angry and just be feeding it, But what I'm talking about rather is when, you hear something that you don't like that someone said, and then you just snap at them, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So, but that applies to many different emotions. A lot of people can just snap right into a depressive state out of nowhere without any thought behind it. Now, that can still happen, and it does happen in my life, but the difference that breath does for me is I am no longer feeding it when it comes up and being sort of in self-pity when these negative emotions rise, and I can rather take a breath, take a step back, and analyze why this is happening, be able to go back to source of what's causing this, and then go further back to the God source to be able to see what He says and then react in the way that He wills for me to.
Powerful information, by the way, listeners. And most importantly, Noah, do you journal any of these experiences?
I do journal, and being able to put it all on paper at the end of the day is important, because if you don't pick apart and analyze your mind after a situation's already done with, then you really can't learn much from it.
Correct. And so by journaling, what does that do for you?
Well, like I said, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about how your own thoughts work throughout the daily situations, and you learn about a lot about how you feel about it, reflecting back reflecting back on them. So you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how you could do things differently, and you also have a lot of you also get a period of rest and relaxation when you're journaling. It's very relaxing to journal.
Well, because it clears your mind, for one.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it is a physical form of commitment.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And then third, when being able to read back or to be able to literally see what you have written, then you can be able to tell yourself whether you are authentically honest about the situation or if there's something still harboring or hiding that you're not wanting to address.
Right, because when you're journaling and picking apart a situation that happened in your day, a lot of times when I've journaled, I can be writing something, and then all of a sudden I'm realizing I'm not writing at all. There's something that I'm not putting on paper, and that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
So then you write it down on paper, and you get it out, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a second form of accountability to your emotional well-being, right?
Right.
All right. So, listeners, again, this is all powerful information. And as you've heard from Noah and these steps that he takes, most of us feel, think, and believe that we don't have the time to be able to do it. In all actuality, is for those beautiful women out there in the world, you have a tremendous gift. It's called a voice. And you have a natural ability to be able to talk to another female and talk out problems until you're blue in the face. But the most important thing is that for most women, they just talk amongst each other. But for the real leadership dominant alpha female, is that she's journaled about it, but then needs either clarification or needs some validation about her feeling. And so she'll call a family member, a friend, whomever that she's closest with, to be able to get feedback off of that emotion, whether it's authentic or not. And so they have a built-in sonar system within their own character that allows themselves to be able to correct themselves quicker and faster because their biology clock puts them in a position of constant communication. And for those women that do not have strong bonds with other females or other people that they can relate to, they end up mentally talking things out and sometimes talking things out in a very crazy form. And I'm not saying going crazy, but what I'm saying is that they talk so much that they finally get to the gist of what's bothering them, and then they are now talked out, right? And so the alpha female, or the female that understands that you have to be able to communicate properly, talks to the women. The not so alpha female literally gets kind of drowned by their own thoughts. And those thoughts become emotion. And those emotions become a physical outcome that is not overly pleasing to them or others. So if they're emotionally not feeling beautiful, if they're emotionally not feeling intelligent, if they're emotionally not feeling a certain way, natural instinct of law kicks in for these beautiful females, and they end up, whether they like it or not, talking to someone because they've got to get it out, right?
Yeah.
So my grandmother, bless her soul, my mom's mom, beautiful angel woman, she would always say that a brain is like a kettle. Sometimes it needs to be poured out so that the steam between the ears can be able to find its own place, right?
That's quite the metaphor.
Mm-hmm. But the truth is that sometimes we get so boggled up mentally that when it comes to emotional intelligence, we become askew. So, in order to be able to correct that, sometimes, and this is why God helped invent the tea kettle, is that when it gets to a certain temperature, it literally screams and
Right.
says, "Hey, I'm done. I'm ready. I'm over." Whatever is that message that's going on in your brain, right?
Yes, and a certain person who I'm thinking of that you and I are very close to recently had an experience at work where she ended up blowing up, and it wasn't a shining moment for this person. But learning from that, she was able to overcome that, and then next time, really make herself seem quite intelligent to the same people.
Correct. So, in closure to this particular topic, is that don't be like a tea kettle, but be like the water. Be so comfortable in your own environment to where you're just going from one side to the other of the tea kettle and just enjoying the space, the environment, the place that you're in, and to be able to literally dwell there in that comfort versus that steam of unexpected anticipation of something that emotionally may not be of value, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So now moving on, you have then the 7 characteristics of emotional intelligent people.
All right, let's hear them.
The first one is that they're change agents. Emotionally, people eventually get it to where someone could be able to say something to them and they can be able to mathematically rationalize whether it's something that needs to be taken personally or that other person is hurting and they're just trying to be able to hurt someone else because they're hurting, right?
Yeah.
So emotionally, the first reaction is to be able to defend yourself when you should be saying to that person, if they're saying something negative, derogatory, or whatever, I'm sorry emotionally that you're feeling that way. Would you like to be able to talk?
Yeah, just opening that space can be a game changer for sure.
Mm-hmm. The second one is that they're self-aware. See how we just naturally got to that stage?
Being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's through experience. Now, they are also empathic, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, an emotionally intelligent person is always empathic.
Mm-hmm. And then number 4 is they are not perfectionists. Now, listeners, this is very important. God never says for you to be perfect, but he does say for you to be right. And when you are right, you end up eventually in perfection, but only in heaven, right?
That's
So let perfection be in heaven where it belongs for your final resting place. But in the meantime, get right and stay right, right?
right.
Okay.
All right.
Number 5, they are balanced. Emotionally, being well balanced allows you to be able to have the foothold, to be able to allow you to have the vision, to allow you to have the wherewithal to be able to emotionally resonate the outcome for which you are desiring to be able to receive from the situation itself.
Yes, it's not like aligning yourself with a certain frequency so that frequency can then become manifest.
Absolutely.
It's doing it internally before the external comes about.
Amen. Number 6, they are curious. Now, listeners, most all of us are natural born curiosity seekers. most of us, when we're going through our adolescent stage, is that we're hyper curious about everything because everything is just so amazing. Everything is so new, and it just seems like that every day is something exciting until you get to be a certain age and the point to you realize that it's just normalcy, right?
All right.
And at this time of normalcy is when you need to be able to raise your own red flag.
Right. Yes.
When you are getting to the period and point and stage of your life to where things are just humdrum, just neutral and balance, and that you seem to be going nowhere fast, emotionally, you're being disconnected from the actual physical truth of what you need to do in order to be able to stimulate yourself to be able to get out of that situation.
Right. A wonderful place to be able to work on this and be able to strengthen this in you is in the workplace, because a lot of people get to that neutral zone almost immediately after they've had their training. Things kind of go into a neutral zone right away.
Yes.
Now, this has happened to me, so I have firsthand experience. When I have reached that neutral zone in a workplace, I can just keep it neutral, and just be bored at work. Or I can see how other people are reacting to me in different ways based on what I'm saying to them, how I'm acting towards them, customers in this case. And that can really shake things up and make things interesting.
Absolutely.
So whether it's with your coworkers or customers, you can do that, and it can really bring a lot of excitement to the workplace that you never knew could be there.
Especially when you've got a just over broke opportunity. Some of the greatest excitement that you could possibly have is to be able to create an environment for which you enjoy working in, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
And number 7 is they are gracious people. Very thankful to be able to actually experience the emotion. Very thankful that they can be able to learn from that emotion. Very thankful to be able to then be able to decipher the hidden meanings behind the emotional states of people, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people may think that being gracious is an emotion in itself, and it's only one that can happen when positive things are happening. But when you're an emotionally intelligent person, then you can be gracious for even a negative emotion.
Absolutely.
And that's a powerful point.
So being gracious is being thankful. And one of my greatest takeaways in my learning system of life is that I have learned to be able to thank the universe, but I like to be able to thank God because I like to be first and foremost sourced to whom I'm thankful for.
It makes it a little more personal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more personal.
Right. So I thank God every day for everything good and bad that has come my way. The more that you become thankful and gracious about your experiences emotionally, God then gifts you a higher level of maturity and understanding emotionally to be able to take you to the next level. And then he'll take you to the next level, and then the next, and the next, and the next, right? So knowing that there are 7 layers of emotional wholeness and completion of being a person is important. Emotionally, and I'm going to step you right on through it. The first thing is first to be able to know what an emotion is. Second, you got to be able to know where it comes from.
Yep. Source it.
Right? Third is that you have to be able to then rely upon your past experiences and your education as far as being raised and how your example setters literally did it themselves, right?
Yes, of course.
The next step from there is mentors, coaches, teachers, people you looked up to, right?
Accountability partners.
Then the next one is what, Noah?
God?
Well,
I mean, he's involved in all of those.
correct. God, everything goes back to God, right?
Right.
So you are correct. Then the next one from there is what? Being the example setter for your friends, your family, your relatives, your acquaintances, so that they can be able to view you emotionally in the manner for which you have manifested to be in the first place,
Yes,
right?
it's yourself.
It's oneself,
It's
right?
yourself and who you are to other people.
Correct.
There you go.
And so those are those elements that make it such a beautiful, emotionally worthy, valued system.
Wonderful.
Emotionally, I feel whole and complete as a person because I am.
Thank you, Kevin. A lot of value there. My goodness. So, listeners, if you enjoyed this podcast and you enjoyed what we have to say, that we have a lot more that we can say on emotions, and we will go into it in the future. But comment your thoughts, comment your emotions that you had experienced during this podcast, and let us know your own thoughts on emotional intelligence, your own experience, and how your life has changed since you've become emotionally intelligent. We'd love to hear it. So comment below, visit us at www.inaneway.com. We've got a Patreon page where you can become a valued contributor to what we do, and every cent that you spend is towards a pay it forward program, which means we are bringing that value then to other people. We're paying it forward to other people who can benefit from those contributions. Thank you for listening, and we'll meet you on the next episode of the OIC Podcast, and that will be on what, Kevin?
It will be the physical part.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.